For years, they've told you everything's fine, that multiculturalism is working perfectly, that we're all on the same team. But I want you to listen to something. This is the voice of a man our own government calls a moderate Islamic leader. Don't listen to me, listen to the plan. In his own words, when Muslims are in a state of weakness, we can't implement the rulings of strength. A state of weakness. Rulings of strength. That doesn't sound like a misunderstanding. That sounds like a strategy. So what is the real plan for Australia? And how did we get here? So, how did we get here? To understand the real plan, you first have to understand the official fairy tale they've been selling us for years. You know the one. It's the story relentlessly pushed by the media and our politicians. A story of harmonious integration, a multicultural success, where we all hold hands and sing Kumbaya around the barbecue. It's a lovely picture. But this isn't just a vague feeling or a media narrative. It is the official, published position of the leading Islamic councils in Australia. This is their public relations front. Let's look at Exhibit A, the Australian National Imams Council, ANIC. Here are their own words on the public record. They state that the Muslim community is, and I'm quoting, an integral part of the fabric of Australian society, and is committed to being positive contributors to social harmony, the safety and security of all Australians. Right. So that's the story, a bit different from what we just heard, isn't it? This is the gaslighting, plain and simple. They tell you to your face that everything's fine, that this is all for social harmony, while a completely different game is being played behind the scenes. So, let's talk about that different game being played behind the scenes. Let's talk about that feeling you get in your gut, that nagging sense that what you're being told by the people in charge doesn't quite match what you see with your own eyes. You're not going crazy. You're not imagining it. You're just paying attention. Because while the media and the politicians sell you a fairy tale about seamless social harmony, the actual data tells a very, very different story. The numbers don't lie. Let's get specific. In 2020, a group of academics led by Rane and his colleagues conducted a major national survey of over 1,000 Muslim Australians. This isn't my opinion. This isn't some blog post. This is peer-reviewed, published research. And what they found is the first piece of hard proof that your gut feeling was right all along. They asked a simple question, and the answer should send a shiver down your spine. 51.7% of Australian Muslims surveyed said they would like classical Sharia laws relating to family matters such as marriage, divorce, and inheritance recognised in Australian law. Let that sink in. A majority. Let's be very clear what this means. This isn't about food festivals or cultural celebrations. This is about the law, the fundamental operating system of a country, and a clear majority want a separate parallel legal system running alongside our own, but only for their affairs. They tell you this is a fringe idea. They paint anyone who talks about it as an extremist. Mate, a majority is not a fringe. It's the mainstream view. And they've just been hoping you were too busy or too distracted to notice the numbers. If you think a dry academic survey is worrying, just wait until you see what this ideology looks like on the ground. Wait until you hear what an elected Australian councillor is telling cheering crowds. Right now, in Western Sydney. Alright, let's go there. Western Sydney. Picture a public square on a weekend, the kind of place you'd normally see kids on scooters or a sausage sizzle set up by the local footy club. It's a familiar Australian scene. But on this day, the crowd is different. The mood is different. This is a pro-Palestinian rally. And the man holding the microphone isn't some random bloke off the street. He is an elected official, a councillor, a man who holds a position of power in our own system, a system he took an oath to uphold. His name is Ahmed. Now listen very, very carefully to what an Australian public servant, an elected representative, tells this cheering crowd to do. He looks out at them and tells them to learn to resist and fight like Hamas. Let's just pause on that. He didn't say learn to protest peacefully. He didn't say write to your MP. He said to learn from a group that Australia, and most of the Western world, officially designates as a terrorist organisation. He's holding them up as a role model, and he's not finished. He makes it crystal clear this isn't about a fleeting moment of anger. He says, and this is a direct quote, that the struggle is not just a short fight, that it has to continue. And then comes the truly chilling part. He tells them this mission, this resistance, must be taught to their children and their children's children for an intergenerational resistance. So, there it is, out in the open, an elected Australian official standing on Australian soil, openly calling for a multi-generational conflict, using a terrorist group as the blueprint. Which, it brings up a pretty fair question, doesn't it? Resistance? Mate, resistance against what? Exactly. Resistance against the peaceful, democratic country that gave you a home, that gave you a voice, that gave you the very platform you're standing on. Resistance against the society you swore an oath to serve. It's a question we're supposed to be too scared to ask. But looking at this, the answer is becoming terrifyingly clear. So, resistance. Let's talk about what that really means. It's not just a word he threw out at a rally. He was talking about Hamas, praising them, and, maybe you could write that off as just stupid, dangerous rhetoric. But I'm an analyst. I don't stop at the words. I follow the data trail. I follow the evidence. And when it comes to Councillor Oof, praising Hamas is one thing, but the connection is far more direct. Let's pull up his file. We have to go back to 2012. Not long after arriving in Australia, our man Ahmed joins a delegation. A trip to Gaza. It wasn't a holiday, mate. This was official business. On this trip, he met with senior Hamas leaders, people like Ismail Radwan. That's a fact. It's documented. But that's not even the main event, because during that trip, he was photographed paying his respects to another man, a man named Ahmed Jabari. Now, you probably haven't heard of him. He wasn't a politician. He was the commander of Hamas's Izz ad-Din al-Qassam brigades, their military wing. Put the photo up. Let's see it. No more talk, just look. This is the context. This isn't taken out of context. This is the context. There. That's him. Australian Councillor Ahmed Oof. And right there with him, the Hamas military commander. This isn't a chance encounter in a marketplace. This is a photo op. A sign of respect. Let's be crystal clear, because they love to muddy the waters on this. Hamas is not a political party. It's not a debating society. The Australian government, government, officially designates them as a terrorist organisation. Full stop. And here is one of our own elected officials, a man paid by our taxes, who swore an oath to our country, paying his respects to their military leadership. This isn't just a bad look. This is a fundamental betrayal. And it forces us to ask a much, much darker question. If this is what they're willing to do in plain sight, what exactly is happening behind closed doors? So, what exactly is happening behind closed doors? That was the question we were left with, looking at that photo. And it's a terrifying one. But you know what might be even more terrifying? What happens right out in the open, under the broadcast cameras, with a microphone in his hand. Now, you'd think someone with a photo album that includes posing with a Hamas military commander would, I don't know, maybe keep a bit of a low profile, lay low for a bit. You'd be wrong, dead wrong. Instead, Ahmed Oof uses a very specific and frankly, a very modern playbook, and it's incredibly effective. Let's take Australia Day. For most of us, it's a day for a barbecue, a bit of reflection, maybe the hottest 100. For Councillor Oof, it's the perfect media opportunity. He steps up to the cameras and declares Australia Day the start of a Holocaust, an invasion. He even goes so far as to claim that people who support celebrating Australia Day might start another genocide. Right? Let's just pause on that. Let me get this straight. He's using the language of anti-colonialism, a script written by Western academics in their safe university offices, to attack the very foundations of this country. And he's doing it while representing a political ideology, a political Islam, that has been one of the most successful, most expansionist, and most brutal colonial forces in all of human history. The irony is absolutely breathtaking. Mate, it's not even irony, it's a tactic. This isn't about genuine belief or a sudden passion for post-colonial theory. This is the playbook. It's the weaponization of Western guilt. You find the West's sore spot. It's genuine and often painful self-examination over its own history. And you press on it hard. You use our own language of social justice, our own decency, as a weapon to silence us. You scream Holocaust and genocide, not because you believe it, but because you know it will make good people flinch. It makes them afraid to speak up, afraid of being labelled something they're not. It's a strategy designed to shut down any and all criticism before it can even be spoken. So that's the playbook, the weaponization of Western guilt. You find the sore spots, you press on them, and you use our own language of social justice to shut down any debate. It's a strategy. It's cold, it's calculated, and it works. But a playbook needs a coach, right? Someone drawing up the plays. And that brings us back to the very start of this whole conversation. Remember that voice we heard? The calm, measured voice talking about a long-term plan. The supposed moderate leader with the not-so-moderate endgame. Well, it's time to put a name to that voice. His name is Shadi Al-Sulayman, and his official title is the President of the Australian National Imams Council. ANIC, the main Islamic body in the country, the same council that puts out glossy press releases about social harmony, interfaith dialogue, and building bridges. The one our leaders and media run to for a comment every time they need a moderate Muslim perspective. But this is what their leader, their president, says when he's talking to his own followers, when he thinks the rest of us aren't listening. He says, and I quote, "Every Muslim must work to implement Sharia law." He then lays out the entire strategy, clear as day. He talks about 2 stages. When Muslims are in a state of weakness, like they are in Australia, he says we can't implement the rulings of strength. You adapt, you wait, you build your numbers, you build your influence. And then, when you achieve a state of strength, you implement Sharia. But honestly, the words themselves aren't even the most terrifying part. Listen to his voice, the tone. It's not angry. It's not hateful. It's the calm, patient voice of a teacher explaining a difficult concept. It's the voice of a CEO, a strategist, coolly and logically outlining a 5-year plan to his board. It's a long-term corporate strategy for a religious takeover. And mate, that is what makes it so utterly, bone-chillingly terrifying. This is the moment. This is the mask slipping, not just off a man, but off an entire strategy. The proof that the moderate public face is a deliberate tactic, a means to an end. And the end game is exactly the same as the radicals screaming on the street corner. So, that was the man our government and media hold up as a moderate. After hearing his own words, what do you think? Is that moderate to you? Let me know in the comments. It's a perfect system when you think about it. You have the radical on the street corner, shouting and screaming, making all the noise. And then you have the moderate in the boardroom, calmly explaining how they'll achieve the exact same goal in the long run. Are you starting to see how this works? Let's call it what it is. It's the oldest play in the book. A good cop, bad cop routine played on an entire country. Think about everything we've seen. You've got the radicals like Ahmed out on the streets, yelling about resistance, posing for photos with Hamas affiliates. That's the noise. That's the distraction. That's the bad cop, designed to make you flinch. Then you have the numbers we looked at. The hard data. That chilling 44% of Muslims in the West who openly say they want segregated Sharia courts. That's not an accident. That's the groundwork. And just when you're starting to get worried, in comes the good cop. The moderate leader, Shadi Al-Sulayman, with his calm voice, telling his followers to just wait. Wait for a state of strength. 2 sides of the same coin, mate. One creates the crisis, the other offers the reasonable long-term solution. And the solution is always the same. But you know what? You don't even need me to connect these dots for you. They're telling us themselves. They are making it very open that they are here to conquer. They are here to implement Sharia. And they're just waiting until they have power. That's not me saying that, that's them. So let's be real. This isn't just a religious movement, it's a political one. And its masterstroke is that it's using the very tools of our democracy to hollow it out from the inside. They're using our tolerance as a weapon. They're using our legal system as a crowbar. They're using our own guilt and our desire to be seen as fair to gain the power they need to dismantle the whole system. They're not breaking our rules. They're using our rules to replace them with theirs. So, they're using our rules to replace them with theirs. Let's be real. This isn't some academic debate for a university common room. This is about the country your kids will grow up in. The country you are working your ass off to build for them. So what does that future look like? Exactly. Tolerating these pushes for Sharia family law today leads to one inevitable outcome: parallel justice systems in Australian suburbs. I'm not talking in 100 years. I'm talking within a decade. This means the suburb you live in could determine your rights as a citizen. It means a fragmented rule of law, where a woman's testimony can be valued less than a man's, not in Riyadh, but in a suburb of Sydney or Melbourne. This is the slow, quiet erosion of the secular principle that guarantees equality, one law for all Australians. If you think this is hypothetical, you're not paying attention. The infrastructure is already being built in the shadows. Right now, there are at least 8 to 10 informal imam boards operating across Australia. They're handling family matters, divorce, inheritance, custody, completely outside our formal court system. This isn't a future scenario. It's the formalization of what's already happening. They're just waiting for the green light to make it official. Hang on. Stop. I know what some of you are thinking. Family law, how bad can it be? That's the trap. That's the inch they want you to give them. Because if you don't understand what Sharia actually means when they have strength, you're willingly handing your kids' future over without a fight. The numbers don't lie. A 2020 national survey of Australian Muslims found that 17.9%, almost 1 in 5, support implementing classical Sharia punishments. Let that sink in. This isn't just about different cultural practices. This is about a fundamental clash with the principles of a secular, free society. And who will live with the consequences? It won't be the politicians and the media elites telling you it's all fine from behind the walls of their insulated communities. It will be you, the mortgage-stressed parent, the white-collar professional grinding away to build a future. I know the thought that keeps you up at night. I'm working my ass off, and for what? So my kids can grow up in a country that's less free, less fair, and less safe? No, not on our watch. This final call to action is not about hate, it's about clarity. It's about refusing to be gaslit and demanding that our leaders uphold one law for all Australians. It's about protecting the secular, free country you're working so hard to leave for your children. If you see the pattern, if you think this conversation is vital for Australia's future, then like this video and share it. Let's get this out of the shadows and into the open.